Hi. I know it's been a little while, but I was hoping you would spend some time with me today. I absolutely love Frog and Toad, so I'd like to read two stories from Frog and Toad together. The stories we're going to read are A List and The Garden. And then, if you like them, we can read Cookies, Dragons, and Giants in the Dream another time. A List. One morning, Toad sat in bed. I have so many things to do, he said. I will write them all down on a list so that I can remember them. Do you ever write lists? Toad wrote on a piece of paper, a list of things to do today. Then he wrote up, wake up. I have done that, said Toad, and he crossed it out. Then Toad wrote other things on the paper. Let's see what he wrote on the paper. He's got eat breakfast, get dressed. These are all great so far. These are things you should do every day. Go to Frog's house, take walk with Frog, eat lunch, take nap, play games with Frog, eat supper, and go to sleep. It sounds like a great day. There, said Toad. Now my day is all written down. He got out of bed and had something to eat. Then Toad crossed out, eat breakfast. Toad took his clothes out of the closet and put them on. Then he crossed out, get dressed. Toad put the list in his pocket. Out he goes. Opened the door. He opened the door and walked out into the morning. Soon, Toad was at Frog's front door. He took the list from his pocket and crossed out, go to Frog's house. Toad knocked at the door. Hello, said Frog. Look at my list of things to do, said Toad. Oh, said Frog, that is very nice. Toad said, my list tells me that we will go for a walk. All right, said Frog, I'm ready. Here's Frog. Frog and Toad went on a long walk. Then Toad took the list from his pocket again. He crossed out, take walk with Frog. Just then, there was a strong wind. It blew the list out of Toad's hand. The list blew up high into the air. Oh no! Help! Cried Toad. My list is blowing away. What will I do without my list? Hurry, said Frog. We will run and catch it. No, shouted Toad. I cannot do that. Why not? Asked Frog. Because, wailed Toad. Running after my list is not one of the things I wrote on my list of things to do. Frog ran after the list. He ran over the hills and swamps, but the list blew on and on. At last, Frog came back to Toad. I'm sorry, gasped Frog, but I could not catch your list. Blah, said Toad. I cannot remember any of the things that were on my list of things to do. I will just have to sit here and do nothing, said Toad. Toad sat and did nothing. Frog sat with him. After a long time, Frog said, Toad, it is getting dark. We should be going to sleep now. Go to sleep, shouted Toad. Go to sleep, shouted Toad. That was the last thing on my list. Toad wrote on the ground with a stick, go to sleep. Then he crossed out, go to sleep. There, said Toad. Now my day is all crossed out. I am glad, said Frog. Then Frog and Toad went right to sleep. That's so cute. I think, though, having a to-do list is good, but if you lose your list, I don't know if you should do nothing all day. I think it's okay to do something, even if it's not on the list. Okay. And now for your second story, if you're still awake with me. The garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog. "It is very nice, but it was hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." "How soon?" asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now, seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now, seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Look at him. What? You're not growing? Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now, seeds, start growing." Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. "You are shouting too much," said Frog. "These poor seeds are afraid to grow." "My seeds are afraid to grow?" asked Toad. "Of course," said Frog. "Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." That night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat," said Toad, "my seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." Are you afraid of the dark? Toad went out to his garden with some candles. "I will read the seeds a story," said Toad. "Then they will not be afraid." That's kind of like what I'm doing for you. Are you going to start growing because I'm reading to you? Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." Then Toad felt very tired and fell asleep. "Toad, Toad, wake up," said Frog. "Look at your garden." Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming out of the ground. Look, he did it. "At last," shouted Toad. "My seeds have stopped being afraid to grow." "And now you will have a nice garden too," said Frog. "Yes," said Toad, "but you are right, Frog. It was very hard work." He did it. It was hard work. I don't know if he needed to play violin to the seeds, but he did a very good job. I really hope you like these stories as much as I did. Good night.